Before I actually introduce our two poets, I want to remind everyone that this year, Planet Earth Poetry is running a call for submissions of responses to feature readers' work. There are little workshops being offered downstairs prior to, I don't know when the next one is.
It'll be like probably January.
In January.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll run them all again and have a copy.
So the challenge is, if you're moved by one of these books or one of the poems, you have to write a response to it. You heard a couple people tonight reading poems that were in response to particular lines. That's the kind of thing that we're interested in. And then there will be an anthology published of the submissions from those readings. Okay? So we're going to start off, first off, welcoming the people who are visiting us from far away or here online. And welcome back, everyone. Our first reader tonight is Tonya Lailey. She spent her childhood on a farm in Niagara-on-the-Lake. She started a winery there in 2000 with her family and winemaker Derek Barnett. Certified as a sommelier. Any other sommeliers in the crowd tonight? No. Just clown sommeliers. Wannabe ones, right. And she was in the wine trade until 2020. In 2022, she received an MFA in creative writing from UBC. She lives in Calgary with her youngest daughter. Her eldest daughter, who is now sitting beside her, studies at UVic. This year, Tonya's poem, The Bottle Depot, was shortlisted for ARC's Poem of the Year. Her poems Bat Love and Love on the Rocks won first and second prize in Freefall Magazine's annual prose and poetry contest. Please welcome Tonya Lailey to the microphone, one of the great young new poets in Canada.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm really honored to be at the famous Planet Earth Poetry, and that was a fantastic open mic, really exciting. Thank you to Kieran Bergier and all the people at Planet Earth Poetry who make this happen. It's quite a lot of work doing this every week, I can't imagine. But it's also such a gift to all of us who write poetry and enjoy sharing it, having it heard. I don't always know if people read the books that they buy, but I know that if they're in the audience at a poetry reading, they're going to hear some of the poems at the very least. Yes, so it's a book about my family farm where I grew up, and the farm is no longer in my family. So in a way, this book was a chance for me to be with that place and to be with it as my child self, but with the ideas of an adult, an older person, a mature adult. And yeah, fundamentally, it's about all the relationships between people and plants, between family members, between colonizers and the indigenous people, so the Neutrals and Senecas and Mississaugas and Haudenosaunee, their history in this place, between ourselves and other types of other animals, between our plans and the weather, and on and on. So I will get into this book here. And I should say hello, thank you to those of you who are joining us on Zoom. I'm going to start with a poem called Divine Imbecility, and it's early on in the book, and it's really a poem about my dad and my experience of his experience at times farming. And it's one of the more uplifting poems. And it has a music in it that helps me get into this place and into the reading. So It starts with an epigraph, or a head note, as Barbara said, which is a great, great phrase. Something else lies concealed beneath it, something unnamed without which quotidian ordinariness would wither, shrivel like a scrap of paper cast into a fire. By Adam Zagajewski, and slight exaggeration. Divine imbecility, my dad calls it. My dad up on a throne of his own making, high on his John Deere, along the sky reach of vines in the sway of them. And row down row down row down row, the rototiller furrows, the sprayer sprays, the mower mows. And there's my dad, high up on yellow, high sun, high tractor seat, the bright feeling, high spring, high summer. My dad, high in the wash, in the blue, gray, white, in the hawk of it, talking to himself, saying God knows what to God knows whom. Passing flies, wasps, the green curly-Q antenna of vines, his audience tied down in lines, no chance for applause, no worry for the lack of it. My dad doing his own thing within the day's doing. Tap, tap, tapping his steel toes. Who knows what he says, what madness he lies, what jokes and whirlwinds within he acts out on the wheel, on the fly, the day going by. And when he comes in from the farm, he doesn't have to tell us. We can see the lit up from within of him, his eyes, their aliveness. And this was a farm my dad grew up on as well. And his dad spent much of his childhood there too. And so I'll introduce, there was another Bill in a poem this evening, and this is my grandfather Bill. My grandfather Bill raised apples, houses, sheds, asparagus, wheat, peaches, 2 daughters, 1 son, chickens, barns, raspberries, cows, pears, goat, cherries. He planted trees not in rows, Chinese chestnut, black walnut, silver maple, Scots pine, cedar. By the time I knew him, he built chessboards, light, squares in ash, dark in mahogany, and coffee tables, boxes. He collected galena embedded with semi-precious stones, had trouble breathing from emphysema. Amethyst, octahedron, columns shone, quartz sparkled on the wood shelves he made in his basement. At the bottom of the stairs, he'd sawed, then nailed together. I couldn't square what I knew of him with the stories my parents told. All the bad business decisions he'd taken that landed the family poorer. My grandmother saying Bill could bring in the farm, but he couldn't sell it. My dad saying his dad had searched for gold near Durham on 160 acres he'd bought by selling off the northeast corner of the farm for less than he might have. I knew him away from the farm when we visited in town. He would place his right palm into my 8-year-old left one, lift the back of my hand to his mouth, hold it there, his lips a wet tissue, his breathing wheezy, his hand cool and bony, like stone, like wood, like a box, like the gold he never struck. Would you be able to pass me the water? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay. I forgot how thirsty reading makes one. Okay. A poem about my mom, really. There are a few mom poems in here. Happenings. Happenings, my mother calls them. She who can be quick to dictate the terms, orchestrate a plan. Hollyhocks flourish along the fence. Just the facts, she says to my dad after she asserts he should not have removed so many branches from the cedar hedge, nor paid so much for the car repair, nor spent as many hours marking his students' English papers. Asparagus sprouts below the Céval Blanc. True story, she insists, when she tells me I should not drive while it snows, or wear ripped jeans, let my hair grow, feel sad, buy shoes I want, since they are a kind she doesn't like to wear on her feet. An oak sapling grows up through the gravel drive. Happenings happen in her garden and on the farm. She lets them happen, takes pleasure in their arrival unbidden, which lets me know she can love this way. A rose cane overshoots the eaves to bloom past a hard frost. I think a lot of people can recognize this shed in some way or another that I'll describe next. One of the many kinds of, or one of the classic outbuildings on a farm. The shed, a put it here for now place, a leave it there for 50 years place. A place arranged by the not mechanically minded. A place to say fuck to a sprayer nozzle, the mower deck, a squirrel. A place to misplace what you'll need among the things you don't. A place where smell tells history in motor oil, parathion, rat scat, wood stain, dust. A jury-rigged place, a jerry-can place. A place I find my dad's sweaty face beneath the bill of his John Deere cap. A swoop, swoop, swooping, nesting space for swallows. A place twine spends time in schools. A sagging glass, Payne's place. A place dead wasps drift with the living on window frames. A place shovels, hoes, rakes lean and fall below the mounts installed for them. A place a day ducks out, dunks itself cool, quiet. A place seatless chairs sit with dented pots and soiled lampshades, just in case. A place a door rests half sanded on rafters, a circle of light where once it held a hand. A place a fluorescent bulb flickers, hums, begs for a quarter turn. A place that doesn't lock, a place with nails for hooks, a place I go to forget what I went looking for, a gone place. Okay, I'll get into a little bit of viticultural knowledge with the next one, and also strangely, it's got an S&M vibe. You'll know, you'll know what I mean. It's called Scott Henry. Don't jump through your ass and hang yourself, my mother would say, usually to my dad when he'd gone out of his way to please somebody. Yet here we were, seeming to do just that for a man named Scott Henry. We didn't know him from Adam, but on account of the eponymous trellis system he devised in Oregon to achieve ripe, flavorful grapes from vineyards planted in fertile soils like our own alluvial vine beds. My mother had never been good at recalling names, but by God, she never blanked on Scott. I had little trouble picturing the guy in jeans, work boots, a boonie hat. Maybe knowing his two names helped, or that he remained alive to enjoy his eponym. In any case, I didn't have the same imagination for Celsius, Watt, Nacho, or the Marquis de Sade. I suspected Scott to have a sadistic streak. I felt it on the day my mother and I applied his method to a plot of Cabernet Franc. It was the slow contortion of it, the degree of manipulation, the decisiveness in the split at the fruiting zone, how we had to coax the lower half of the canopy down where it wouldn't go on its own and hook it there with catch wires. Based on available measures, Scott Henry's prescribed binding and contorting and all our jumping through our asses paid off. The vines consistently considered exceptional, refined, complex, beautifully ripe, and above all, balanced. Quite a big portion of this book, one really long poem at the end, which is way too long to read, but is about my relationship with Jamaican migrant workers and my family's relationship with Jamaican migrant workers. So I wanted to read a poem about one man in particular. It's called Jeffrey, for Jeffrey. His white hair drifts above the exhaust of the tractor he drives, and cast with his white beard conjures up a mini meteorology, a towering cumulus in the humid heat rising from peach leaf stomata, a mist made in the fur of sunset ripeness. How many years this half-life, half Jamaica, half Canada? How does it amount for him? He tends to keep Jamaica to himself, or so it seems to me. I find his presence godly, maybe the hair, his heft and height, his deliberate body, the quiet attention his hands carry to a basket handle, a peach tree branch, a tractor wheel, how time slows in his vicinity. Jeffrey mostly minds his own weather. However, when the rains come, he's out holding up a shelter, far greater than the cloud over his head. How are we for 1 minute? The last poem I'll read, it's called Tying Vine, so it's one of the many types of handwork on the farm. And I like it for its spaciousness. I really feel kind of the open sky and the air, and the amount of work. Tying vines. We bring vine wood to the wire with twine. Even the grass churns blue. A cool smell broadcast, received on stiff antenna in fields between rows out of order. Cordons, rusted like chestnut, spring back into my hands, bent toward another tendency. My frigid fingers are careful not to knock the new buds off. They have risen as fish bladders, ancient impulses, swaddled in flannel, flaunting an involute softness, embedded. We wait then for the sun's hot disturbance to first turn out pink lines in folds, then spread green skin after skin, to plump the gold fruiting bodies to come fall. Meanwhile, over the river midline, the same cordon rust tails a hawk, soars, surveils. What about the wired vines, pruned at ends, IV lines dripping where they've lost the vein? At my feet, a robin rustles last summer's dry grass, picks a twine end dropped, takes off, trailing the white strand.
Makes you think about wine, doesn't it? And how much more work goes into it when you sip that bottle. Thank you very much. That was a delicious reading. Now, more excitement to come. It's a special pleasure for me to be introducing Yvonne because she taught me the job when I became the artistic director. She's a former artistic director. Zoe's a former artistic director, and Kieran is the current artistic director. So it's Artistic Director Memorial Night here. Anyhow, Yvonne, this is her 6th book of poetry, Death of Persephone, a murder, a mystery based on the Persephone myth, the noir mystery genre, and the ongoing violence to girls and women. You can hear some of these poems read in Bastion Square. If you go to the PEP website, click on Poets Caravan, because last summer, 2 summers ago, we filmed Yvonne reading earlier versions or pretty close to the same versions of these poems there in Bastion Square. What, about 5 poems, 6 poems that we filmed around Bastion Square. It was a fun afternoon with people sort of wondering what we were doing there with our camera and our poet. Previous books include The Last Show on Earth, which explores grief, love, and climate change. She's an award-winning poet, nonfiction writer who has edited 5 anthologies, most recently Hologram, Homage to P.K. Page. She holds an MA with distinction from the University of East Anglia, which for those of you who don't know is in Norwich in the UK, and is a past poet laureate of Victoria, BC, a past artistic director of Planet Earth Poetry, and an editor of a series of books on water and a new one in the works on ice. So with all of that, let us welcome this fine poet, Yvonne Blomer.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Tonya, for your wonderful poems. It's great to be here. What else can I tell you about Death of Persephone? Can you hear me? Should I get closer?
No, it's good.
Good? Okay. So it is a book of poems, and it's also a murder mystery. And I'm going to try and give you a little sampling of it tonight without giving too much away. But the big thing is in the title. You know who dies. Yeah. So I won't give that away because you know already. And I wrote myself some notes here that I might just share. Myth and Persephone could be seen to be about understanding death and life, seasons, humans' place in the larger world. Dominance over leads to trouble. When Persephone is taken, her mother, Demeter, creates an eternal winter. Crops don't grow, seasons stalls. Here in this book, I link violence to women with violence to planet. I've just been touring in Ontario, and sometimes it was introduced as it being a departure from my usual work, thinking about climate change, but I feel like it's a digging deeper. We have a new leader in the United States who has allowed the United States to surrender to Hades. Last power, destruction, and rape of planet Earth. The male usurping the female. So here's a little taste. And Many creatures of the natural world are very important to Persephone, and one of them is the bat. So I'm going to start with a poem about the bat. And I started this poem before the pandemic and finished it during it when I got really enraged. So, Pteropus fruit bats, and it's in multiple parts. 1. The feet of the fruit bat are the small hands of a human child, the nose a dog's nose, calm in the year of the rat, keeper of balance, watchful dog, ever watched bat. Thumbs and fingers, soft dermis of membrane. Can the elongated hands of the bat be attentive? Can the wingspan? Blame the bat when humans falter. Blame the wolf or fox when chicks get eaten while farmers' fences encroach into wilder spaces. Blame the girl, her uncle's obsession. 2. Screws, secateurs, twine and stakes, cages for birds or bats, a girl perhaps, such honeyed wood, wooden slats, rope, headlamps. Spelunk deep into the earth, peek up, crepuscular fruit bats, sweet, sleeping breath, quiet hunger. 3. Above on the meadow where asphodel and daisies grow, a girl in a floral dress braids a chain. Below where the roots and bulbs of narcissus burrow, the small feet of bats cling. And from water beads on the trichomes of these underground appendages, the fruit bat quenches its thirst. 4. Did you call her Bat Girl? Did her uncle wear a bad guy mask? Did he offer her fruit and batty, she ate it? Blind, did she bat her eyes at him? 7. O bat, O maiden child, O myth makers and storytellers, look what we've done. Demonized the bat, harvested it, mummified it, sold it online, stressed, starved, caged, poisoned it, frozen it in vampire tales. Loss, lose, lumbering. 8. Roosting one, flying fox, insect eater, we've broken the watersheds. We've lit up the caves like devils with our plastic horns. We've let the girl get taken. Again and again we've marked her grave with pale, nocturnal, bleat and trill keening bats. I don't start too soft. So the book moves between chapters, between the detective D.I. Bocca. Bocca means mouth of truth in Italian, and Stephanie, who is Persephone in here, and renamed Stephanie so she could be every woman. And it's set in a city that wants to be every city with an underground system that is like a subway system. Case notes, D.I. Bocca. And the detective's poems are linked sonnets. Time after time they're called, from beats patrol to drive time response. The sirens call to order. Chaos drawn toward death, a spider to a corner. He seizes back control, tries to, through evidence, hard-lined questions asked. Tonight, rain, the roads washed, everlasting damp, beauty slaughtered. Another young woman, brunette, blonde, redhead, shoe missing, night rain-soaked, a stale cigarette. Cuts on her palms, bruised neck. Had she some foreknowledge? Had he? Time and the bodies slipping, a clock winding down. Dragged and bedraggled, skin cut, torn, bruised. Later, the autopsy will show what eyes won't see. Fury, distance between. The city won. On city streets, rain, and on the great oak's leaves, rain, our open mouths.
And on the great oak's leaves, rain, our open mouths.
What is a city? A woman walks, her feet pound the laneways and avenues of a great city.
Her feet pound the laneways and avenues of a great city.
From old town to new, the city lives, a scaled and curled beast.
A scaled and curled beast.
Another woman loses her shoe running. Another catches a note of song.
Another catches a note of song.
Still another graffitis a mural on a theater wall. What is a city? It is a river that rises from the dark earth. It is traffic lights, headlights, dark. It is darkness.
It is a river that rises from the dark earth. It is traffic lights, headlights, dark. It is darkness.
Fear is a city in every woman, and the police, a clique of men.
A clique of men.
Language fills the pores. Ville, herb, poli.
Ville, herb, folly.
The city has an eye, and the city has a million eyes.
And the city has a million eyes.
Thank you, chorus. So when I launched the book, I did a walk through the alleys and laneways in the dark of Victoria with these beautiful women as my chorus. So you'll hear from them again. So let's meet Stephanie. Descendant. Change in her pocket, Stephanie hops, skips to the escalator, descends ever deeper to the best bubblegum machine in the farthest corner where chandeliers like pocket change tinkle, and Tom, her friend, hides from his grumpy father, who would rather be a truck driver, maybe a medic, a gardener, than work cleaning the uncleanable floors of this derelict subway system. They throw rocks down caverns. Listen, she says, listen. But they never hear them land. They trample flowers, small as her pinky nail, that find light enough to grow in these muddy crevices. Light along mossy tunnel walls, she scrapes a nail through. Tom mentions his mother, but Stephanie shuns the very idea. Meh, she says, I never had a mother. The underground is a maze of secret places, delights, Uncle H's deep tenor, Tom's father's longing, both wanting something else. How far can you see in the dark? Tom asks. Way farther than you, boy, she shouts to him. They chase each other up and up, winding trails, steep staircases, pop out in the city, blind in the light. Race around the great oak tree, leaves settle at their feet. She kicks them, crushes the dried leaves, chases Tom back down and down to Uncle's souvlaki, Uncle's lamb shoulder, his pork shank, the meat sliced thin, served on pita, a pinch of lemon and dill. Her braided hair, black clothes, her red keds squeak as she runs into each mazed and dark place. The Underground One. Dark, gilded, rivered. The subway system is a world. It is a cavern of emergency exit red and burnt timber black.
It is a cavern of emergency exit red and burnt timber black.
Dark, gilded, channeled. The subway system is a nightclub, a cafe, golden arches and mirrored mosaic spaces.
A cafe, golden arches, and mirrored mosaic spaces.
Dark, gilded, roving, trains move below the roots of the great oak, below the roots of the dark elm and the horse chestnut.
Below the roots of the dark elm and the horse chestnut.
A world moves, riven, dark, gilded, corridored. Trains are coursers in the veins of iron ore, trace minerals, rare earths.
In the veins of iron ore, trace minerals, rare earths.
Dark, gilded, molten, the subway is everlasting dusk, a vista of darkness.
Is everlasting dusk, a vista of darkness.
An overpass built for the serpent tram, screech of trains, of human voices.
Of human voices.
Of dark, writhing movement, the subway is commerce and trade.
Commerce and trade.
Bodies and goods, named and unnamed.
Named and unnamed.
Okay, I'm going to jump ahead. I feel like I'm taking ages. Am I okay?
Yeah, you got a couple more minutes.
I'm good? Okay. Okay. Stephanie turns. What the? She says, and Uncle H turns the corner to look in her room. It's a dress? He shrugs. For your birthday? His hands loose hooks. What's this? He asks. For university, she says. The letter refolds at its creases. On her birthday, they go down past the souvlaki. He knows the tunnels, he thinks, better than her. He wants to hold her hand, but she shrinks from him. He had the Italian Gregor make pasta, set up a table in the deep recesses where paintings of the Mona Lisa, sure copies, but whatever, and sculptures and pure, clean lines of graffiti mark the walls, and the candlelight dances off them, and they dine. Happy birthday, niece, he says, and she says, thanks, Uncle H. Shy, suddenly gone, the forthright, talkative kid, though that half grin, and he pours her some red wine, and she giggles, but briefly. Going to go to university, and he nods, knowing this would come. He cracks his knuckles, which is as threatening as he thinks it might be. Remember to come back, he says, and she nods, and 18, she says, thanks for raising me, she says, lately strange dreams, and he says, dreams are just dreams, your choices like ghosts hovering. He says, don't forget to come back to me and leave Tom, he'll do fine, and don't dwell on those dreams, they're not memories. And he nearly says something of her mother, but he visibly shakes his head, and she pretends she doesn't know, what he's thinking. Later, he finds a hidden corridor and shows her hieroglyphics on the deep walls, and she stumbles in astonishment. Women in gold and green and glory, women and trees and water flowing. A fountain and at its depths, and he gets her to look away and reminds her to forget about those dreams, cursing the walls for not showing battle scenes or whatever, a lightning bolt, a burnt cavern of a tree, a wild young man, a horse, a dog, a sprig of wheat, a chariot even. But she's leaving. Her plan is to leave. Any day now, university and her leaving, her strange dreams, her remembering. My book's such a mess from touring that I can't find anything. Okay, this next poem is a merging of my own writing and the writing of Stephen Fry from his book, Mythos. First laid eyes upon her. There was one powerful God. H bends on one knee to meet her eyes, who had laid his covetous eyes, green and gold, sun on leaf, upon the girl in her mother's garden, and had no intention. He holds out one fragile narcissus stem of respecting Demeter's wishes. He holds her gaze for all time. Hades, who is driven by lust, dizzied by her small hand on its stem, desires Persephone and wanted her fragrance, how her eyes narrow to take him in for his wife. He stares until a crack forms in the earth. Zeus, Hades, and earth collude until she pulls the flower to make the abduction possible from him, lifts it to her young face. The male usurp the female mysteries. She drops it to the ground. Later, he says, see, he says, your mother left. She didn't really want you, and I wanted you, my little helpmeet, my child. So now she's left him, and I'm just going to read a couple more poems. After Stephanie. H stares until a crack forms in the earth. His maiden child, his girl, already gone. The room carries her voice, her scent, his skin warmed by her touch, never again. Warmed by her touch, her scent, her skin. The room carries her voice, already gone. His maiden child, already gone. His girl. H stares until a crack forms in the earth. In his head, his fists, lust and power. H is not tempered, but old. He's a god put to bed. Also, Lord and Master. He reaches for the phone. And one more. Yeah. It's really tricky when it's a novel as well as a book of poems. So I'm going to end on a poem called Corridor. And this poem is for the missing and murdered Indigenous women. And my chorus will join me one more time with huge thanks. Corridor. Say Persephone and corn, wheat, olives.
And corn, wheat, olives.
Pause for, yeah, sorry. Page 47. Should we start again? We'll start again. Guys. Corridor. Say Persephone and corridor. Say Persephone and corn, wheat, olives. The Mediterranean comes to mind, ancient stone acropolis, gods fixed in place and time.
Gods fixed in place and time.
Where the Persephone of camas and salmonberry, orca whale or gray.
Orca whale or gray.
The goddess of fertile trees, blue bead lily, choke cherry, cloudberry. Gods or totems, the maiden taken is not just in our imagination.
Is not just in our imagination.
Walking home, this highway of a corridor of vanished beings, violence and erasure of earth and what is fertile.
An erasure of earth and what is fertile.
An erasure of women and deep knowledge. Language the tongue cannot curl to, yet still tongues do. Persephone, maiden taken, is in everything.
Persephone, maiden taken, is in everything.
Iconic girl, expected violence, history on repeat.
History on repeat.
Legend, myth, religion, we are breaking the code. She is make-believe.
She is make-believe.
She is real.
She is real.
Smacked down, she rises, human, enduring.
She rises, human, enduring.
Great. Thank you, guys. With a special thanks to Christine Wald, Cynthia Woodman-Kirkham, and Arlene Perret, who are my Greek chorus.
So can we have a big round for Tonya and Yvonne? I think this was our first Greek chorus. So that was kind of good fun. Next week, we have Shane Bach, poet, filmmaker, and professor in the Department of Writing at UVic. His most recent collection, Congotronic, won the Archibald Lampo Award and the K.M. Hunter Award. And Zhao Yu Shan is a poet, writer, translator, and editor born in China and living now on Vancouver Island. Reading from Then Telling Me the Antidote.